Welcome back to the 5 p.m. podcast, everyone. I'm Tina, and as always, I'm here with Dan, ready to unpack another fascinating intersection of, well, you know us, everything.
Hey everyone, Tina. I'm still buzzing from this week's topic. We've got international politics, we've got high-stakes sports, we've even got a bit of constitutional law thrown in. It's a wild one.
It really is. For those just tuning in, we're talking about Canada's overtime win against the U.S. in the Four Nations Face-Off Hockey Championship, and times how that victory is intertwined with some pretty intense political comments from, you guessed it, former President Trump.
Yeah, the timing on this is incredible. The game was on February 20th. Canada wins 3-2. Connor McDavid with the game winner, by the way. And asterisk then, times you have Trump, just days before, reiterating this idea of Canada becoming the 51st state.
Right, and Prime Minister Trudeau's response was pretty definitive. Something along the lines of, not a snowball's chance in hell, which, is polite Canadian for...
We get the picture. But, and here's where it gets interesting, Tina leaked audio suggests Trudeau is asterisk privately, times a bit more concerned than he lets on publicly.
Ooh, intrigue. So what's he saying behind closed doors?
He's quoted as saying, "This isn't comedy anymore, we must prepare for fundamental relationship changes." Which, is a asterisk very times different tone.
So let's dig into this. We have this seemingly outrageous proposal, annexing Canada. Dan, help us understand, is this even remotely possible, like legally speaking?
Okay, so, legally, it's a asterisk long time shot. We're talking about Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Basically, it says Congress needs to approve any new states. So, you'd need a majority vote, which, in the current political climate...
A bit of an uphill battle, to say the least.
Exactly. And then you have the whole international law aspect. The UN Charter, Article 2.4, it's all about respecting the sovereignty of existing states. Canada would, have to asterisk agree times to this.
Which, judging by Trudeau's public comments and the general sentiment of Canadians, seems unlikely.
Highly unlikely. There was a reference, not specific data, to strong opposition from the Canadians. There's a sense of national identity at stake here, beyond just the politics.
And that's where the hockey game comes back in, right? It's not just times a game. It's a symbol of Canadian identity, especially against their, let's say, spirited times southern neighbors.
It feeds into that narrative. McDavid scoring the winning goal? You can't write a better script for Canadian national pride in that moment.
So beyond the symbolic, what are the real-world times implications of this kind of political rhetoric? Even if annexation is a fantasy, does this talk damage the relationship?
It certainly doesn't help. We're talking about two countries with a massive trade relationship. Almost $800 billion a year. These kinds of comments, they create uncertainty. And uncertainty is bad for business.
And we saw some hints of that, right? There was talk of potential tariffs from the U.S. side, linked to fentanyl control agreements.
Yeah, it's a complex situation. You've got these intertwined issues, trade, security, national identity, all getting mixed up in this, frankly, bizarre political theater.
And what about voices times supporting this idea, however fringe they might be? We saw Steve Bannon, for example, suggesting that, strategically, integration is inevitable?
Bannon's argument seems to be focused on Arctic security, which, given the changing geopolitical landscape, is a valid concern. Quote, but it doesn't necessarily lead to annexation as the asterisk-only time solution.
Right. There are other ways to cooperate on security without, redrawing national borders.
Exactly. And let's not forget the economic arguments against time separation. The disruption to existing trade agreements, the potential for economic instability, it's a huge risk.
So to sum it up, we have a dramatic hockey game, a politically charged atmosphere, a very unlikely but headline-grabbing annexation proposal, and a whole lot of uncertainty about the future of U.S.-Canada relations.
That's a pretty good summary. And it highlights how seemingly separate things, sports, politics, economics, can become so deeply intertwined. It's a reminder that even the most times outlandish political statements can have real-world consequences.
Another reminder of why we do this podcast. Thanks for breaking it all down, Dan. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this wild ride. We'll be back next week with more on the 5 p.m. podcast.
See you then.